Hello and good day to you all. I am back. Hello and good afternoon to you all. I have just photographed the sunrise and talked 20 minutes about the two new lenses I've bought, and I realized I don't have an intro to this video. So this video is going to be all about my two new lenses, the Olympus Pro series 45mm and 25mm f1.2. I bought them and I like them, and right now we're gonna go back in time to yesterday evening when I was out photographing some stars, and then we're gonna head back today to photograph the sunrise, and then we're gonna have a long-winded talk about the lenses at the end. So yeah, let's get started. I'm gonna go photograph some sheep now. You'll understand in a minute. Notice I'm speaking English again. That's right. In between 𝐔𝐿𝐿𝐾𝐑 episodes, I'm gonna do English vlogs as I usually do. But lately I've been doing loads of videos in Norwegian because, as many of you know, I've been producing a television series for Norwegian television, and they allowed me to upload it, the episodes here on YouTube, but I'm doing those episodes in Norwegian because, after all, I am from Norway. But I filmed a few more episodes from 𝐔𝐿𝐿𝐾𝐑, and I tried out a new format in one of them because I filmed it first in Norwegian and then I filmed it in English as well. So I'm gonna do a cut of that movie where I went up to 𝐵𝐵, a beautiful Norwegian glacier, and I'm really looking forward to share that trip with you. But that will be in a couple of weeks, I'm afraid. That will be in English. I also filmed an episode from 𝐔𝐒𝐬𝐿, where my family has our family cabin where we recorded the Rags and Feathers album. By the way, there will be 2 or 3 videos from Rags and Feathers coming really shortly. We've been mixing and adding tracks to the album, so that will be very interesting. So in a few weeks you'll get updates on the album as well. But from that cabin I took a hike to a mountain, and I tried to climb the mountain, but the weather was really bad. It started really good and then it took a turn for the worse, and there was a lot of fog coming in and a lot of winds, and it was a bit cold, and that's probably where I got sick, to put it like that. But that's how it is. As you can see, I'm in the dark right now. I have a huge torch directly in my face. I can't see anything. I took the car and I drove to a very dark place because my new lenses, the Olympus f1.2 Pro series, they are often referred to as light suckers. At least I read it somewhere that they're referred to as light suckers. So I wanted to see if they could suck some starlight, so to speak. So I took a short drive and I'm at a very dark place trying to do some astrophotography. One thing I really like about my new lenses is that the focus ring actually stops. It has an infinity where I can mark it and I can find it every time. And for you full frame users out there, to have an infinity might not be a thing you normally think about, but for us Micro Four Thirds users, our lenses often just keeps on turning and turning and turning, and we never have a locked infinity. And these lenses have that. When you activate the manual focus, I missed it sorely. So now I have 2 lenses which has an infinity where I know the focus every time without having to check it. So that's perfect. Especially when you do nighttime photography like I'm doing today, you can nail the focus every time. Right now I'm using the 25mm lens, and for a full frame equivalent of that is 50mm. So just think of it as a 50mm lens, and it's not an ideal lens for astrophotography because those lenses needs to be almost as wide as you can get. So it's a fixed 25mm, no zoom whatsoever, and it seems really good. I'm really looking forward to see the images when I get back. So for the most of tonight's images, I'm having the ISO set at 2500, and I'm shooting 8 seconds exposures, 7 seconds exposures, just playing for a bit, and it seems to be all right. I don't have any star trail, and that's good because I really am no fan of star trails. So I did a little test before I got out here, and the test was quite simple. I took the camera and I put on the 25mm lens, and I went out into my living room, which is kind of dark, especially during winter time, and I just took an image of the living room, and I noted down what settings that was required to kind of balance the image well, light-wise, and I ended up on the settings f1.2, 160 of a second. And then I changed into my previously go-to lens, which is the 12 to 60mm, and I zoomed into 25mm, and I think that's around 25. I think it's f3.2 at the lowest, and to get the same results I'm getting with the new Olympus lens, I had to go all the way down to 20th of a second. So that's a gap from 20 to 160, and for me that's a huge gap. So you can imagine me photographing weddings now in low light conditions. This is heaven for me. I don't have to bump the ISO nearly as much, and I can still get a fast enough shutter to not get blurry images. So I think this new lens will help a lot with that. So that's me done for this evening. I'm going to show a few images now, and then I'm going to go back and get a few hours sleep before I'm up again for the sunrise, because I really want to do some images tomorrow morning to test out in more light conditions. I'll see you tomorrow morning, so good night. And a fine morning to you all. Welcome to day 2 of my lens testing day. This morning we're gonna do some sunrise images. And I've driven out to the coastline, to the east coast of the island. I see now that the light is already starting. And there are no clouds on the horizon, so I think the best light is gonna be now, to be honest. So I'm gonna look for a composition, and then I'll talk to you then. Even though the sunset hasn't started yet, I can already tell that the best light has already come and gone. This is exactly why I like to be early when photographing sunrise or sunsets, because if I don't have my composition planned beforehand, I like to have good time looking for compositions. And today, testing out a new lens, and the new lens, it's a fixed 25mm. It's not a zoom lens, and that's unusual for me to think in those terms, if you know what I mean, because I always have that leeway back and forth. I don't have that with this lens. So I really wanted this scene right here, really low, and the sky like this. I saw that place from afar, and I rushed down, and I realized I can't get that with the fixed 25mm, and I considered about swapping to the kit lens, the 12mm, but I thought that would be stupid. I'm here to test out my new lenses, not to use my old lenses. So I'm gonna do that image in one other day. So I'm sitting right here, and I found a composition which I actually like, and I think I'm using the strengths of the lens in a neat way. One of the main strengths of these lenses are the wide aperture. Remember, these are micro four thirds lenses, so just take every number I say and multiply it by 2, and you have the equivalent full frame sensor wise. And the widest aperture on this lens is 1.2, and my previous lens was 2.8, the widest aperture. So from 2.8 down to 1.2, that's a huge difference for me. And as I mentioned last night, it sucks in way more light, and it also has a smaller focus range. f.2 is quite small, and that means you can isolate the subjects. And I'm going to talk more about micro four thirds systems in a later video, But for now, let's just say that shallow depth of field and isolating subjects is not one of Micro Four Thirds' strengths. But with these lenses, it allows me to isolate more than I previously have. I found something in the foreground because I really like these jagged pointed rocks on the east coast of the island. So I slid down an ND filter just to preserve some texture and color in the sky, not to burn out the highlights. And I put the focus right in the middle of this jagged rock section. So I have kind of blurry rocks in the foreground, gradually gets sharper in the middle, and then gradually gets more diffuse as you move closer to the sky in the background. And 2-second shutter delay. And there we go. f1.2, 200 of a second. Towards the end now, I found a position which I could place the tripod in that allowed me to get that composition I originally wanted. So the sun is coming up over the horizon and I got this idea. So I rushed up to the bag and I brought my 15 stop filter. Right now I'm on f1.2, 13-second exposure, and the results are quite beautiful because I get the bit mellow water in the foreground, and I got the entire sunbeam straight on a skew towards the camera, straight towards me, and it looks really cool. I'm loving these results I'm getting. I think that's the best image of the day, and to be honest, I never expected it to be an image using the 15 stop filter. So once again, here are my settings. f1.2, 13 of a second, and that's the equivalent of 3200 of a second, and a 15 stop filter, and that gives me this image right here. I really want to talk a bit about why I chose those two lenses in particular, because they were quite expensive, so I had to sell two of my lenses to afford them. And the lenses I sold were the wide angle, the 9 to 18 millimeter, and the macro lens, the 60 millimeter macro lens. I sold those two, and the reason I sold those two was that I sat down and I had an honest talk with myself, saying, when was the last time you used these two lenses? And as fate would have it, I had recently used the macro lens because I was a quick trip to Oslo with my family, because the puppet theater, which I had been writing the music for, premiered that weekend. So me, my father and my mother, we drove across the mountains, and I filmed the show and saw the show and listened to the music, which it was a great experience. And on our way back, we drove across the mountain and we came across this beautiful steel ice place where the ice crystals were so large. So we stopped the car and I got out and I used my macro lens, and that managed me to get really close to the ice crystals and take a few photographs. And that was the first time I used the macro lens for over a year, and that was just 2 weeks ago, something like that. And I couldn't justify owning a lens which I use once a year. That's just too much money laying around, and I can use those money to buy something that I will use and something that I actually need. Yeah, a bit more about the eyes, because I really wanted to make a short episode up there, because it was really something I haven't seen that often. It was quite special. They were really huge, as you can probably tell by this footage. And I did some filming, and I took a lot of images, and I did some filming, but I wasn't able to talk that much because, truthfully told, I was a bit nauseous, because on the way there I've been sitting in the back of the car responding to YouTube comments, and I was really car sick. So I almost felt like throwing up. It's the things you write in the comment sections. It really makes me sick, you know. Where was I? Yeah, I sold that lens, and then the wide angle lens, the 9 to 18 millimeter. When was the last time I used the 9 to 18 millimeter? And the only time I could think about right at that time was, you remember that video when I did photographing the same location? I think it was 6 times in a row, 6 days in a row or something like that. And I took the exact same composition by the sea using that wide angle lens, and I combined the images to one image, and I thought it looked really neat. And I think that was the last time I used that lens, and that's almost a year ago now. So I can't justify having 2 lenses that I use almost once a year. It's just too much money lying around. So I sold those 2 lenses, and then I bought these 2 lenses. And the reason why I bought these 2 lenses is I think there are 3 main reasons why I bought these 2 lenses. And the first reason is the wide aperture, 1.2, and that's a huge step in letting in more light. I do a lot of wedding photography, I do a lot of corporate photography, I do a lot of indoors photography, and the GH5 and low light capabilities, Micro Four Thirds in general, it's not very good. So these lenses with the ability to go down to f1.2 is a really huge step for me in the right direction in taking images with shallow depth of field inside without bumping up the ISO. So that's one reason I bought them. And the other reason is, as I said, shallow depth of field. I've been doing photography now almost every day for about 2 years, almost 3 years, just doing photography and video work. And when you work so much with one thing, you automatically get better at it. You would assume, at least. And you gradually start to develop your own style. And lately I've been looking through my Instagram feed, because that's almost like a timeline of your recent work, and you can almost start to detect a pattern or themes that runs through your images, and you start to realize that, oh, I'm developing a style, or I'm starting to, or I'm trying to. And lately I've been focusing a lot on isolating subjects, finding subjects out when I'm walking and trying to isolate them, or isolate shapes, patterns in the nature. And I've been struggling with that, with the shallow depth of field I get with my old lenses, because I can't isolate anything without zooming all the way in, getting really long back, zooming all the way in, and then maybe I get some isolation. But these 2 lenses, 25mm and 45mm, they will really help that. The 45mm it's a perfect portrait lens, and sometimes when I photograph trees, that's what I think about. I do portraits, and I like to isolate them. So I'm really looking forward to test the 45mm in a forest, just to see how much I can isolate subjects. The same thing with the 25mm. I can isolate things, like this image you saw right down here earlier, the little pond with the sun coming in, and I put focus directly on the rocks, on the horseshoe, and I kind of isolated that horseshoe, keeping the background a bit blurry, and it didn't have to be that sharp, you know what I mean? So that's reason number 2. The reason number 3 is, I mentioned it earlier, I need lenses to work indoors to do weddings and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that explains why I got these lenses. And of course, yes, I was thinking about buying 2 Voigtlander lenses because they go down to 0.95 aperture, and they let even more light in, and they're built like a tank, and they're really old school lenses. I tried 2 of them at the camera store and I absolutely love them. But my main issue with those 2 lenses, and the reason why I didn't go for Voigtlander, was simple fact that they weren't weather sealed, and I'm heading out in all kinds of weather, whether it be storm, rain, sea spray, snow, freezing temperatures, and my gear needs to be weather sealed and good weather sealed. Simple as that. That's the only reason why I didn't go for Voigtlander. Alright, I'm looking forward to do some more testing, and after a while maybe I'll do a proper review of the lenses. I'm not good at reviews. This has been more initial thoughts on the lenses, a bit try them out. And I haven't tried the 45 that much yet. I have tried it back home, just taking portraits of my wife, and it gives the effect that I thought it would give, to put it like that. I saw some sheep up there. I'll take some images handheld using the 45, not gonna vlog any of it, just take snapshots of the sheep, and you can see the kind of quality you can get, the shadow depth of field, the feathered bokeh, and it has a beautiful bokeh, and it does. There's no way around it. These lenses have a beautiful feathered bokeh. Stay tuned, more videos to come, more interesting videos to come. I'm sure this had been a gear heavy video, and that's not my usual forte. I like to film adventures, so to speak. But sometimes you have to talk about gear as well. After all, we're in the business of gear. Alright, I'm gonna stop now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video of me talking like an idiot about things I know little about, consider subscribing to my channel. There are loads more videos to come, and I've shown clips from my future trips to come in this video, so you know what to expect. So if you want to see that and you want to get a reminder, just hit subscribe and maybe that little bell as well to get notified when I upload videos. I really appreciate it if you do, because it really helps with the exposure. Also, I have an Instagram account, I have a website you can check out, I have... what more do I have? Oh! Yeah, leave a comment if you have any questions regarding the lenses or why I did what I did. If I haven't explained it by now, I'm a complete moron because I've been talking non-stop for maybe 20 minutes. Alright, that's me talking long enough. Cheerio and goodbye for now, and I'll talk to you in about a week. Alright, bye bye.